Joel Kadish, my unofficial co-host, is back.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so nice to see you.
Glad to be back. Thank
you. So looking into 2025, and I feel like I always stumble on giving predictions like this because I always feel like the haters out there are like, oh, the agents just want you to go and buy something. But really, there's all indications except for the fact that 15 minutes ago we found out that Freeland resigned and we have a $60 billion deficit. So let's table that with the fact that we do believe it'll be a stronger spring market. I think I would say it'll be a stronger spring market for sure than what we saw in the fall. I think a lot of people thought the fall was going to be stronger than it was because of the interest rates.
Absolutely.
That did not
materialize.
Did not materialize.
Not at all.
Because it was still expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, money was still expensive. Money is still expensive, but what I think is going to happen specifically in the freehold market is, forget the headlines, there's nothing to buy. I'm telling you right now, there is nothing to buy of quality. And I equate it to, you have a blue chip stock.
Yeah.
Are you going to sell that blue chip stock when it's up or when it's down?
Yeah,
right? Because you know the value of it. So people who have good quality homes, and I'm not saying this stuff if you're selling your house right now, it's not that it's not good quality, but if you don't have to sell, if you don't have to move, and you have a great house, and you're in a good neighborhood, 4-bedroom, it's in good shape, all that good stuff, and you've put money into it over the years, you're not going to put it out in a funny market.
No.
Right? You don't know what you're going to get for it. I literally was referred to a new client the other day. They have a beautiful home in Cedar Vale. And she said, I don't know. I'm told it's a weird market. Well, no one wants to do anything in a weird market.
And where would they go?
Right. So that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So having said that, I do believe that going to 2025 in the housing market, I think there will be less opportunity for you to come in and not be part of a offer night, and to have tons of time to come back and forth with home inspectors and parents and all of that good stuff. And so we are going to discuss a very interesting case we did together in 2024 because we know people love stories.
Yep.
This was a good one.
It's a good story.
It was a really good story. And I would probably say that I called you going, but I don't understand. But I'm like, no, he should be able to. Oh, fries are ready. I didn't put this on. Sorry. It's nice that the insurance company calls me back 5 days later.
5 days is good.
5 days. Don't worry.
Don't
worry about it. I'll tell you that story another time. Anyway, so, and then at the end, we would love your perspective because we are going to talk about the condo. This could happen in a house.
Sure.
In condos, for sure, you will be able to have 10 home inspections if you'd like.
Yeah, well, you can
truly
do anything you want.
They are on sale. Having said that, we did have another client on that talked about buying a condo, and most of the condos that are for sale are the investment ones.
Yep.
They are 1 bedrooms, 500 square feet, maybe if you're lucky 600 square feet. That's probably 60% of what's on the market right now.
Absolutely.
And then everything else is just guilty by association, right? Like people just are like, oh, it's all on sale. You're on sale. It doesn't matter. Okay. So we had a client that bought a condo. So we were searching for a condo, and this was listed by an agent that I knew.
Yeah.
I've known her for many, many years. She's a great agent, good brokerage. And so not to say that I didn't do my due diligence because we did have a home inspection, but I took her at her word, which by the way was her word.
Yeah.
And so let me back up. So we go to the condo, we like it, we decide we're going to negotiate an offer. And that offer had many conditions, including a home inspection.
Status certificate?
Yeah, status. Oh, and the status certificate. This was another one that I learned. Yeah,
I know.
Thank you very much.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. So we notice in the first showing that there were 2 spots by 2 of the balcony doors that were sticky.
Yeah.
I had never come across sticky floor, like hardwood sticky floors. So all I can say was it was discolored and not wet sticky.
Yeah.
So I asked the agent, what's going on there? And she's like, oh no, they bought it like that. That's the way it was when they bought it. They've been there for years. I'd also was told that they had they'd done the renovations.
And they like it sticky. This is what they want. This is what they're going for. Sticky, right? So they've just lived with sticky. Right?
So I'm like, but it's, right? So then I go, but it's sticky, right? And she's like, oh yeah, they had it kind of repaired to sell, and it wasn't done properly.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
okay.
Okay, fine. So I think, you know what? We've got a home inspection in the offer, and we get my guy.
Yep.
I only deal with this one guy from one big company, and we have him come in, and he's very pragmatic, and he's also very honest. Like, if he doesn't know, he doesn't know, right? He'll be like, I don't know, right? So we find another sticky area, and we lift up, by the way, if you are buying a house or a condo that is staged, lift the carpets up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to you that people hide things on purpose.
Like dead bodies or other things? Like there's a big lump in the middle of the carpet?
We'll just go with damage.
Okay, damage.
Yeah, we'll just go damage.
Damage floor.
Yeah,
Sure.
no big
Hiding a
lumps
damage
or bumps.
floor.
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, no trapdoors. But I've been in some murder basements. I really have. I think I've been in some murder basements. Anyway, so we pull the carpet back, and lo and behold, there is massive sun damage. So now the floor underneath the carpet is totally different than the rest of the floor. So I'm like, okay. So we are going to need a price adjustment.
Absolutely.
We are going to need to replace all the floors. I say to the agent, I said, right now, first of all, we couldn't figure out, like, the home inspector could not decipher where the water was coming from. He couldn't. So as much as I love this home inspector, let's all remember, and I'm sorry to all the home inspectors, most home inspectors have never built a house. They have taken a course.
Yeah.
Now, you could also say, they could come after me and say, well, you sell houses, you never built a house.
Right. And there's there's also no licensing process in the province of Ontario.
Well, they have no regulatory body.
Yeah, no regulatory body. So when you don't have a regulatory body, theoretically, if you and I were bored, we could, put up a website, we could do Instagram, and we could be home inspectors.
You and I, oh my God.
Right?
Joel.
I know. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's just open a company.
Can you imagine?
I know.
We're here.
I know. We're here, and I see that.
And we're going to tell you all the things that are wrong with your house.
I see flaky paint, so therefore there must have been a leak.
There must have been a leak.
Yeah, damage to drywall.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're like, okay. So I call my designer and I say, listen, it's approximately, here's the floor plan. It's approximately how big the condo is. I need you to guesstimate how much you think it'll be to replace floors, and I want high-end floors. This client would have wanted something high-end. So we get a number, and we get the price adjustment. And even the agent said, she's like, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, make sure that number makes sense to you. So we actually asked for more. The seller pushes back on us, and we end up where we think we're going to end up, right? Because you want X, you ask for Y, and you get X, and that's the way the story goes.
Yep.
Right, okay, fine. We close.
Yep. But wait,
we pull.
Hold on.
What am I missing?
The only thing I want to add is status certificate review is clear.
Oh, sorry. So then we have the status certificate.
Right.
And Joel goes through it.
Yeah, no problems.
And it's clear, nothing. There's nothing on it. Now, what could have been on it? Like, what would you have been looking for?
So I would have been looking for a note about, chargebacks are where a condo comes to your place, does work, and makes you pay for it because it's not their fault. So if the
that
condo...
That stays on the status certificate forever?
No, but if the condo was aware of engineering reports, damage, unresolved issues, I think it's incumbent upon them to put it on the status certificate or to give you a light. So none of that.
Right, and so when you speak to clients about status, certificates, we talk about the thing. So again, I'm not a lawyer.
And also
I preface it by saying
the status says we have not done an inspection, right? But in this case, they had.
So, oh my God. So let's not forget about the balcony.
Right.
So then we
We close.
We close, and the floor guys come in,
Yep.
and they start to demolish.
Yeah.
And what do we find? Every single door has a leak,
Yeah.
and there is a massive mold problem
Yeah.
underneath the floors.
Absolutely. And nobody's going to, when you do a home inspection, by the way, no one's going to rip out
Well, you're not allowed to.
pieces of hardwood.
You're not allowed to.
To look underneath. They have those water detector things, but
He did them.
again,
So the interesting part was he did them on the patches that were sticky,
yeah.
but the active water one didn't have any didn't show any damage. Why?
It's going underneath.
Because they had the bamboo subfloor.
Got it.
If they had not had the bamboo subfloor,
The floor would have been
the
wrecked.
entire floor would have been ruined.
Ruined.
Again, people are watching this going, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" Whatever. True, whatever the Latin, buyer beware.
Yeah, caveat emptor.
Because the reality is, and I say this about home inspection, first of all, yes, you should do home inspection. I'm not here to say not to do a home inspection, but I have drilled into my clients over time as these things have come up in my career, and I've now been doing it. I found my paper. I got licensed in 2012.
Oh,
Muzzles.
muzzles.
They are a superficial inspection. They will tell you how old your furnace is. They can tell you if they suspect issues.
Yep.
But most of the time, it will tell you that the drain in the bathroom upstairs is slow. It will tell you that the exterior is sloping towards the house.
And some of them have limitation of liability. So in the home inspection,
Yeah, they'll say
it'll
we're not mold experts.
It'll say
We're
no.
not asbestos
Well, but it also says that the limit of their liability is the cost of the report. And so those limitations of liability isn't great. It's not a great defense if they're actually negligent, but typically they throw enough ambiguity in there that you're going to have a hard time. And we're going to talk about what, it's like one of my favorite expressions, going to court, right? What do those three words mean? We're going to talk about that in a second. But even if you're home inspector, your realtor, the condo corp, the seller, let's say everybody has this huge conspiracy. Okay, so what do we actually do about it? So what?
So we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But by the way, I did a house inspection in Trinity Bellwood a few years ago. The agent was good enough to have a pre-home inspection, shared it with us. It was a tough house.
Yeah.
My clients loved it. They love it now. All is good. But we were like, we're going to do our own home inspection because we can do a whole other one about buyer-seller inspections. Same company, just different agent. And we found something that guy missed. Now, it wasn't negligence necessarily, but they're still human. I mean, it was a century-old house. It was like if you've ever been downtown in a row house in Trinity
They all
Bellwood,
have problems.
for the love of God.
They all have problems.
So anyway, all that to be said. Okay.
Wait, let me jump in 1 second.
Please.
So there's this thing called privity of contract. You and I have a contract together. So if I don't hire the home inspector and pay for the report, if that report is not addressed to me, there is no privity of contract. Therefore, if I take the seller's inspection report and I rely on it to my detrimental reliance, right? So I'm relying on that report. There's nothing I can do.
Write this down.
Nothing I can do.
Everybody write this down.
So it's great that they got it, but I can't rely on it. Now, in commercial transactions, we have these things called reliance letters, where an environmental report is issued, and now my client wants it. The environmental company will say, I will update it, and I will issue a letter to you so that you can rely on it. But this does not exist in the world of residential home inspections. And it probably should. They should probably offer it.
It never will because they want to charge on the other side.
They do.
Fine,
they
that's
want
how
both sides.
But you know what?
What does it cost? I don't even know. What's a home inspection cost? $700, $600. So we're not talking about.
By the way, percentage of your total value of your home. No, but the reality is that, listen, we got into this about the $30 whatever that someone wanted a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing to me is that, this is, again, one of the largest, purchases, investments of your life. Sure. And listen, again, we had a home inspection. I had another client. The mother was telling me the brother, who I don't deal with, but the other child that is a client of mine, said that the brother had bought a house in Bathurst Manor.
Sure.
They'd been there for a month. They did a home inspection. They flushed the toilet.
Yeah.
It exploded.
Sure. it went into
the mother was losing.
It
She's
went
like,
into the living room or into the basement or into the living room and the basement.
Okay,
Yeah.
so again, for all of us that we've, the house is, and as we all know, you buy the house at that moment, and then there could be a flood.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. Anyway, so we close, and now we're like, oh my God, the client is losing his mind.
Yes.
He has now given notice for where he's moving out of. He's going to be homeless. This is holding everything up. We get in touch. So now we get in touch with the property management, who is evasive at best. It's like I don't know if they're protecting themselves, they're protecting the sellers. Bottom line is, we find out that they had been aware of this before we put the offer in.
Correct. So the seller, just to be clear, the seller knew and the condo corp knew.
But the condo corp did not want to put in writing that the seller knew.
Right.
They said, well, we don't know that they knew. We know it was reported from the unit below. And I said, you're telling me on paper, you'll verify that the person below knew about the water, but the owner of the condo did not know about the water? No response.
So it's, just to be clear again, it's dripping into the lower unit from the floor. Water finds its level, right? Water just keeps going.
Also, if anyone knows me, I am persistent until you want to kill me, okay? So, my husband, my children will tell you, and my clients will tell you, I will not give up.
No.
So I'm like, no, I'm not buying that. So then, finally, I write back a nasty letter, to which it is basically, if you do not respond to me, the next one will be a lawyer's letter.
Sure.
She responds back, I sent you this email, with a cut and paste of a condo board's minutes, of which the engineer that had been hired by the condo corp to visit the condo,
surprise,
to do a report on why the water was coming in.
Yep.
Before we closed.
Yep.
And and what else do we find out in those minutes? That the bar on one of the balconies is not secured and a safety hazard.
Yep.
My client has a child.
6-year-old.
You're not allowed, no one was allowed to go onto the balcony.
Correct. Wrap it up.
Never disclosed.
Wrap it up.
So I'm like, Joel?
Yeah. So and this is the funny part. So the first thing we have to know is, the first question is, what are the actual damages? So damages are out-of-pocket expenses, right? Okay. So now the first thing is, he was always going to change the floors, and he negotiated an amount of money for the floor.
Well, we got $50,000. We took 50. We asked for 75. We should have gotten 200. But anyway,
the question is, what are we out of pocket as a result? And then clearly, this is not a minor non-disclosure. This is a material non-disclosure where we have actual knowledge. So it's not like somebody might have known. We often talk about where something happens in a house, but the sellers never knew. Which is different.
Sellers, you can't, unless you could track down the company that they hired to come in.
The sellers can say, we didn't know about it.
Right.
It only came up now because of this once-in-a-lifetime flood, right? So, and that's fine. So the bottom line is, we keep, kind of going in these circles. But damages are out-of-pocket expenses that you incur as a result of this non-disclosure, as a result of this failure to disclose. And we do have caveat emptor, buyer beware. Buyer beware is the law in the province of Ontario. It's old English law, so this goes back literally centuries in terms of what you have to do, right, and the burden of proof. So now let's presume that you say, I want to sue someone. Now we have to do a cost-benefit analysis on legal fees and whether or not you're going to win.
So this is where it became interesting between Joel and I, in the sense that, so to me, first of all, the other caveat to this whole story is, we still don't know what's causing the water.
You don't.
We don't. So the engineer did not have an answer.
No.
And the best was that the woman, the administrative office woman, kept writing back going, it's okay, it's really, I think it's just the seal on the door. And I
It's
went,
the seal on the door.
Really?
No.
And what school of engineering did you go to, ma'am?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not shitting on her, but like,
Yeah.
where in the God's green earth did you take it upon yourself that you should ever write in an email what you think it is?
Well, it's an opinion, right? She's
But
actually
it's an uneducated opinion.
she's actually giving an
That's
opinion.
like me saying, I don't know.
And the funny thing is, let's say you go to court, which nobody's doing, but let's say you did.
Well, that's
You'd
a
have to
whole other
hire,
thing. Like, I was like, we have to sue them.
You have to have an expert.
like, no.
You have to have an expert who gives a report on what is actually wrong. So now I've got to hire an engineer to give a litigation report, and I have to purchase this report, and they have to draft it. So they're going to have to come in. They're going to do grading studies. They're going to find out what happened when the condo was built. They're going to tell you that the pour on when they poured the concrete on the balcony, that the angle the grade was wrong, and
I think it's the envelope.
The grade of the right. So we're talking about a major structural deficiency which will never be fixed, right? Realistically. So
But
when
that's when you sue.
That's when you sue, sure. And in this case, what you would really do is knock on all your neighbors' doors and say, hey, do you have sticky floors? Do you have sticky floors? And you might find a commonality, and then you can try and all get together. But
right.
And I'm not saying you're going to sue. I'm going to say you're pressuring the condo.
By the way, he's already
corp
done that.
And pressuring the board to do something about this chronic persistent problem.
He's told everybody.
Right, because that's how he is. That's his personality.
But by the way, I would too. I would 100%
As
do
would
that
I,
too.
because why would you not just, when you saw somebody in the lobby, say, hey, you know what, I just moved in here. I've noticed this water pattern.
Yeah.
Do you have the same thing?
By the way, I also want to preface by saying, like, people are listening to this probably going, oh my God, it's probably one of those new buildings downtown.
No, not at all.
This is a well-known building in Midtown Toronto.
And how many square feet is the condo? It's big.
It's big.
So therefore,
And-
we're not saying anything about the price, but it's not one of those
by
$600,000
the
or
way,
$700,000
the
condos.
builder owned it.
Yeah.
The original builder bought that unit and lived in it himself.
Right.
And it is the kind of building that people, so first of all, tip for anybody out there, if you're looking at a condo building, you get into the elevator, ask everybody who's in that elevator, do you like living here?
Yeah.
What do you think about living in this building? If they say they're renting and everyone says they're renting, walk right out. If you have people who are like, oh yeah, no, I've only been here for a year. These people, every single person that we met in that building had been there. They were originals.
Sure.
They had been there 10, 15 years.
Great sign.
Not transient. Great sign.
Yeah.
There were very few rentals, I think, actually in the building at all. Anyway, so all that to be said, you know, you can do as much due diligence as you want.
Right.
So to me, now I'm like, okay.
So who should we sue? Just
Because
for
to
fun.
me, that was my biggest, I was like,
Who do
Joel,
we sue?
we're suing.
The condo corp?
Also, I got the client. I was like, "We're gonna sue," and then Joel's like, "No, we're not gonna sue Rachel."
The condo corp. I would sue the condo corp. I'd sue the sellers. I'd sue the seller's agent. Right. So the seller's agent, realtors have insurance. So you're selling.
Yeah.
You're suing an insurance company.
So let's go back to that.
Sure.
So I called her,
Yeah.
and I've known her, and I said, like, I had it in writing,
Sure.
and I flipped it over to her, and I go, "This is not good."
No.
I said, "This is not good."
No.
Call me. She does not call me.
No.
So
Because she did what you would have done. She went to her broker of record, probably.
who said, "Don't say a word."
Who said clam up.
She didn't say,
you know.
she didn't admit that to me, and I know her broker of record.
Sure.
But what she did say to me was, I spoke to my client, and he was not aware, like just
Absolutely.
stood by
Absolutely.
the original.
And by the way,
and I'm like,
if you're a realtor and you're watching this, and someone comes to you with this, really do go speak to your broker of record, especially if you don't have a ton of experience or you.
Oh my
you
God, you
don't
can
want
get
to
in
email
so much
back.
trouble.
You don't want to email back the wrong thing.
Oh my God, no.
And at that point, the broker of record, and sometimes they have lawyers who they will speak to about these things as well. It will become like a party line. I didn't know, right? Because that's what they realistically have to say to avoid liability.
And the reality is then you have to prove that they did know.
Got
and it
it.
would be very, very hard to do that.
100%.
Very, very
Unless the seller says,
I told her.
she knew everything, and here's the
email.
emails and texts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, they're gonna turn on each other, right?
But the reality is that I do know this woman. I I feel very confident in believing that she did not know.
Okay.
I believe, because there was a problem, not a problem, the seller was going through a major issue in his life that was disclosed to me, which probably shouldn't have been disclosed to me, but whatever. And I have a feeling that he just needed to get it done.
And you know what? We've spoken about how critical real estate is to life cycle events, right? So, you know, when a first-time home buyer is very different than somebody who's moving up, who's already bought once, and now their first time selling. We talked about estates and how when people pass, they're selling their family home that they've lived in.
Yeah, but at least that's an as-is
divorce.
Condition. Yeah.
But we have talked about how, you know, that has an impact on sellers' motivation, maybe how they'll behave in a transaction. And by the way, if you're a seller, don't tell your realtor.
Oh yeah, we
right, because the realtor had that. If they have told the realtor, yes, we were aware of a flood, she would have had an obligation to disclose. So, you know, there's different lawyers are governed by solicitor-client confidentiality.
I have a great question for you.
I can't say anything. Realtors have to say
Yeah.
something.
So I had the worst experience with an agent maybe 2 months ago. Like I'm really, I try not to be mean, but I was like, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I
like
know.
I lost my mind on this woman because she had my clients running around for absolutely no reason, and I really don't like that disrespect. Anyway, so she goes, so the agent on my team does some pre-con work with her to find out a little bit about the house, whatever, and then reports back to me and says, well, the agent sends me I was sick, that's why. She took her, I'd had that plague or whatever was going on. I said, do me a favor, can you please take them for the first visit? I can only see the pictures online. She sends me the home inspection, and she goes, well, and she told me that when they bought the house that there was asbestos.
Oh.
And I go,
oh, she told you.
But also, they bought it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Why would they tell her? Like, I'd be like,
no.
I go, but it's not on the report.
Right.
There's no asbestos on the report. No. Like, who's the dumbest person in that scenario?
And I hear asbestos can give you a nasty cough.
Small, minor.
No big deal.
Minor.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying, listen, our job is not to hide things.
No.
Our job, we are legally not allowed to hide things. But like, why do I need to know that there was asbestos in that house? Again, if you are a seller, you need to be truthful. You need to tell everybody everything. But on the other hand, as a buyer, I mean, I bought my house from a builder. I'll tell you, I'm the only person that didn't sue him. I mean, the reality is that you buy from anybody. You don't know who built the house. I will tell you horror stories of houses in the lower village. I'll tell you ones in Ajax. It doesn't matter.
I bought a house from a builder, and my powder room threw up fecal material on my living room. I blamed my kid for, clogging the toilet. And then after they dug up my driveway and fixed the plumbing issues, somebody said to me, are you going to sue? And I said, of course, I don't know any good lawyers. So why bother? But it's super difficult, right? In my case, there was about $4,000 in damages, right? So now
are you going after someone for $4,000?
So now I'm aware of the time it's going to take me to go to small claims court. I'm aware of the burden of proof. I can't just say, I have to get a plumber to write a report, and I may have to get the plumber to come to court and pay for his court time. It's really an arduous process. It's not like some easy thing where we just, and then you might lose. On top of everything else, you might lose.
And then be out more than $4,000.
And then you may be paying the other side's costs. You're paying your own costs out of pocket.
And your time. I think that's what it comes down to.
And I always tell people, if you believe in any kind of negative karma, like if you're a karma person, going to court is the worst karma. It's just like horrible.
Well, you're just like,
stuff.
You're really getting down in the dirt, and now you're rolling in it. Like you are covered, and there's no getting out of it. I have good friends who bought a house from this same builder, and they sued him.
Yeah.
They sued their lawyer.
Sure.
And I watched them go through that.
It's
and
terrible.
it was horrible.
It takes years as well.
So
in big court.
it was horrible on
years.
them. They did not get what they wanted. And they ended up settling for their own, and these are salt of the earth, incredible people, roll off their back kind of people. And I watched it eat at them.
Absolutely.
Eat at their
Yeah, because we have, lawyers have an insurance company as well, but no professional insurance companies roll over. So they don't just say, yeah, you're right, we're going to write you a check. Yeah. They're going to take you down the line, and they're going to make it difficult. They're going to make you spend money. And so it really is a negative, frustrating experience. And by the way, the judge you may get may have no real estate experience and no commercial experience per se. So you might get somebody who was a family judge or a criminal judge before.
Great, that's what I want, a family judge who's going to come in
and read an engineering report. And so these are the difficulties when people say, they come in, they're very passionate, they're on fire today. And sometimes a year later, and I'm not saying there are times you don't. So we had a carpenter ant story, and it turned out that the second floor of the house was holding on by a thread, like the house was going, the ants had essentially destroyed all the structural integrity of the house. I'm not saying there are times where you don't sue, because
you sue then.
You sue, you do.
But you have to weigh the risk mitigation.
You absolutely do, and in this case, for our client, it's not over. You have 2 years. So he has 2 years from when he found the problem to sue.
Can you put something in sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Can you put something in where you're like, okay, so right now, I have no basis to sue.
Right.
Because let's say that, we got $50,000, but it cost $55,000. Right. So you know what, we're out $5,000, but you know what, I'm going to eat it because I like my mental health to stay exactly where it is. But if that envelope has to be done and I'm now $100,000 in the hole for a special assessment, can I come back to you?
Sure. So what I would do in that, you might have to preserve your rights. In other words, within the 2-year period of time, you might have to actually issue a statement of claim to preserve your rights. So it gets a little tricky, especially if you think it's going in that.
We have to talk about that.
In that big
direction.
In that big direction. Yeah. And so I have had people do that where they proactively sue and say, look, we're doing this. We don't want you to do anything right now. But then there are limitation periods within that as well. So again, you've already had to retain a litigation lawyer. You've drafted a statement of claim. The lawyers charged you. They charge
by the hour.
They charge in 6-minute increments. The Law Society says we're allowed to charge in 6-minute increments. So if we send an email, it's 6 minutes. If we get your phone answering machine and we leave a message at 6 minutes, so it adds up. And we can talk about whether we like or don't like the system. I'm not really talking about that today.
Yeah.
I don't have a clock. I don't govern my time or my relationships that way.
Yeah. No, I know you don't.
But lawyers do.
I think the takeaway from this is, this shit can happen no matter what you do.
The takeaway...
you can have a great agent.
You can have
a great lawyer.
And a great home inspector. And things can still happen.
Happens.
Yeah. And it can happen in a house. It can happen in a townhouse. It can happen in a condo. It can happen in a cottage. There's nothing to say that it can't.
I haven't been to my cottage in 3 months. I'm worried there's no water in my
Right. But it can happen anywhere, because at best, the home inspection is a snapshot or a picture in time. The day you go with your realtor is only a snapshot or a picture in time. The day your lawyer does the searches, there are snapshots or pictures in time.
Well, a status certificate is only valid for 30 days from the date of issue, because 31 days may be a special assessment. I mean, that's not really. But I mean, and it's true, how much, when we go back to this scenario, how was it that none of that was in the status certificate?
Correct.
How?
And so
I said to you, you know what? My new thing now is I'm going to call every single management office. And you're like, no one does that, Rachel.
So it's really,
and I'm like, I don't know. How else do we get around it?
The interesting thing about status certificates are that they're swords and shields. So I like that. Because if in fact a special assessment were to occur, and if in fact it should have been disclosed on the status and they were aware of it when the status was issued, our client could use the status as a shield and say, I'm not paying the special assessment.
Right.
because I relied on the status certificate.
Right.
And the Condo Act says that.
Okay.
So let's say you ordered a status certificate and you never got one. The Condo Act says it's deemed to be clear, right? So
What?
yeah, because the system has to work, right? So they have 10 days to issue it, but if they never issue it and it's never happens. But
No.
But the point is that
unless the agent just was like, oh, we never got it, it's
there are
fine.
safeguards in the system
Right.
to protect buyers. And so that status is a sword and a shield. So he could use it as a shield and then use it as a sword against a claim.
Right.
Against a claim by the condo for a special assessment.
They were totally covering themselves.
Right. And
There's
the
no
fact
question.
is, they don't know what's wrong with it, and they don't want to spend the money. They don't have the money in the budget to do an engineering study and find out what is wrong with it. And so it becomes a real headache for those people who work in the office. Like, you have to understand, the people who work in the office, they're just property managers. They're not.
No, they're admin people, and I'm not shitting, but that's what they are. They're admin people. They answer phones, they put status certificates together, they coordinate. You even said, because I even said to her,
they collect the monthly fees. They
right.
remit them to. They liaise with the accountants,
they have
the lawyers,
a certain budget
and
they're allowed to
that's
order,
Nothing
and that's
else.
it. Yeah, because I remember we were demanding when the balcony was going to be fixed, and she said that's above the budget I'm allowed to approve.
Correct.
So it now has to go to the condo court board to approve, et cetera, et cetera. So. We know everybody loves these salacious stories.
Sure.
They're shitty. They happen. We've had a whole bunch this year. You know how many realtors I've spoken to this year who were just like, this was the craziest year for stuff like this.
If you ask myself, my colleagues, if you were to go into the market and talk to lawyers and realtors, they'd say that the deals were harder. In 2024.
They were.
That more things came up. People are much more financially strapped, so they don't have an extra budget of $3,000 or $5,000
or $30 for a fan
to fix whatever it is.
Which I get.
They're
I
passionately involved in their real estate.
Very.
And so what we found is that deals were harder, and things came up at the last minute.
Because, by the way, no one was saying a word about a loose doorknob.
Nope.
Or a fan in COVID.
During COVID.
You got what you got, and you didn't get upset, or whatever the saying is by kids. You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Yeah.
Right? Like
absolutely.
kindergarten, right?
100%.
That's what happened in COVID. And now everyone's like, well, they took the nails off the wall, and they just patched it. Like, that should have been painted.
That should have been painted over in exactly
over.
the same shade and sanded.
But no. But and listen, in a perfect world, yes.
100%.
In a perfect world, yes. And you know what? We had a deal this year where the basement, the stove. Oh my God, that stove almost took years off my life.
Oh,
stove. Oh my God, the stove. What's that company name that no one should ever use? I'm going to put it in the show notes. Never, ever use this company. Anyway, my client found it. I did not find it. And I had clients, the Trinity Bellwoods had the same company, same repairman. It was a nightmare. Anyway, I think there's something wrong with the repairman. Anyway, and we closed. The part didn't come in on time. In the contract, it said that it had to be fixed. I chased, talk about what my hourly rate was. Yeah. I chased that man.
Minimum wage.
And he stuck with it. He could said, you know what? He's a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
His hourly rate, $600-700 an hour. He could have said, you know what? I'm not dealing with this anymore. I mean, I dealt with it, but whatever. He was still involved and still very upset that it wasn't happening.
He was upset.
He was very upset. And he had prepaid for it. Also, they made him prepay for it.
100%.
He was furious. And we stuck by, we got that fucking stove fixed. I remember I'm like, I never want to see the stove again. I never want to talk about that stove again. What did it take, 6 weeks?
It took a long time.
Anyway, before we go, one more salacious piece, because we are talking about condos and you have been dealing with a lot of this, is we see in the headlines that the assignment market for condos, the assignment is before you get occupancy.
Yep.
The assignment period is when, you have to start.
Well, let's talk about what assignment is. So,
please.
So when you sign a pre-construction contract, the contract is an asset in my hands, right? So I own that contract. It's an interest in land. And like any other asset, I can sell it. Now I need permission from the developer to sell that. So some people who can't close or who are having difficulty close said, you know what, I will assign it. I will sell this asset to someone else and then they will close to get me out of it.
Now,
so
not all of them have assignment options.
they don't. So the builder, there is a provision in the agreement which says you may not assign it. Sometimes when you sign the agreement, you can negotiate a limited right of assignment, and then you can sell it during certain periods.
Right. For a fee or not for a fee. It depends on your contract also, right? The builder might actually want a piece of that and charges you assignment fee. So anyway.
Sometimes it's a percentage of the profit. That's rare. Most oftentimes it's $5,000 or $2,500 and plus legal fees, etc. So you'd ask me before we came on, like, what have I seen? And I can tell you
like, are the headlines true?
Yeah. So we've seen negative assignments where people are selling their agreement of purchase and sale for less than they bought it for. Yeah. So if I bought it for $400, I'm selling it for $380, and I've seen people lose deposits. And by the way, the builders are suing people. So if they lose money, then they're actually going after people as well, because sometimes these condos are not appraising at what people bought them for.
A lot of them aren't.
And by the way, for some people, it's the lesser of two evils. They can't get a mortgage from an A lender or a monoline lender, so they go to the secondary market. Now the interest rate, the legal fees,
that delta's getting bigger now,
gets
right?
bigger and bigger. So they'll say, look, I'm going to walk away from my deposit because it's the lesser of two evils. If I close, I'm really not going to be able to carry this thing because the rent will not be sufficient to carry it.
Who are, talk to me about who these people are, because listen,
They're everyone. So because
everyone.
Yeah, you know why? Because you know what lemmings are. Lemmings run over the cliff. Hey, I'll run over the cliff if you run over the cliff. And so what happened was everyone said, I can make money in real estate. Because my friend told me at a barbecue that I should get into pre-construction condominiums.
Who wasn't it? Or who? I'm going to butcher this, but the idea is, like, Warren Buffett said something like, like the shoe guy, like his shoe gave him a stock tip. It was like, as soon as it gets there, it's not a hot, it's done. So as soon as you're at a barbecue and someone's telling you about
it. Buy pre-con, then it's done. Right. So I think a lot of people
because real estate is everything is in the rearview mirror.
100%.
Everything is in the rearview mirror. Whatever's happened now, it's done.
So we had these unsophisticated people and sometimes very sophisticated people who kept going and going and going. Instead of for me personally, owning pre-construction condos is a way I diversify an investment portfolio, but it's not the only asset I'm going to have. I'm going to have my RSPs. I'm going to have whatever I choose to be. I get a financial advisor to help me devise a wealth maintenance plan, right? But for some people, they just went too far, too fast. And the real killer was that they thought interest rates would be zero forever. Well, so when they bought the condo, let's say they bought it either before COVID or during COVID.
Yeah. During COVID is a lot of
They never expected that the interest rates that they'd be paying on their investment condo would be 6% or 5%.
And that the rental market would tank at the same time.
Sure. So for me, I have a partner and he and I own a condo and we're getting $4,100 in rent. It's a 3-bedroom and I'm underwater, collectively we're underwater $1,500 a month right now. Now,
long term you'll be laughing.
Long term it's fine, but in the short run we're really sucking it up. And so I'm telling people I always tell people personal stories because I was very reluctant to get into the market personally. Right. Because I've seen too much. We see too much. You see too much. I see too much. Right. But when I got in, we could not have predicted the economic circumstances of COVID.
But no one could.
And we could not have predicted the interest rates. We could not have predicted, sort of the horrific economic guidance that this country has had. I'm not talking about I'm not saying that as a
What,
political statement.
The $60 billion that we found
I'm not talking about that as a political statement either. I'm talking about it as a statement of fact.
Yeah, no,
that
I
we are
understand.
not in a good place. People are having trouble paying. We talked about this before. Groceries, the cost to live in the GTA.
Unemployment is now at what, 6.8%?
The pressures that people are actually feeling, and our viewers are saying, how do I get in the market if I'm not in? How do I get out of the market? You know, if I'm in the condo market, where do I go? And they're really looking for advice, and it's hard right now. We are hopeful. Well, we're coming back to where we started, but we're super hopeful for the 2025. We thought it would be better by now. Interest rate cuts didn't work, right? We really didn't see so much.
I think that the interest rates didn't work because there was too much uncertainty. And the reality is people don't like to do anything when it's uncertain, right?
Absolutely.
So
you used that before. You said weird market, right? So when people feel that, then they're like, I'm just going to close the doors.
And I even think that the spring market will be slow to start off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have never in my career be sitting in a December going into a market that I have half a dozen buyers that would buy something tomorrow if it came back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truly, buyers are coming back.
Yeah.
It takes them a while. So the reality was, the interest rates did do something. It brought the buyers out of their slumber and it got them engaged, but it didn't get them to act yet.
Correct.
And what happened was the sellers, not being as sure as the buyers, were like, I'm going to hold on to my house for a
And
little
we're talking
longer.
about, just to give you, again, real numbers from my practice, our volume of transactions went down by 40%. So it's
Over COVID.
No, yes, over COVID. But
Since COVID or year over year.
but even year over year. COVID, I always like to take COVID out. But those transactions can't reoccur, right? So we were bound to have a drop. But the drop was really it has been incredibly dramatic. And I thought it would recover by now. And I was wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I had a much, like 2023 was probably my worst year.
100%.
Worst year. Like I was like,
Yeah.
anyone?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and again, I don't buy leads. I don't put, you know what I
No,
mean?
no.
People call me, not to say that I wait for my phone to ring, but the reality is that I know that the people who are loyal to me will call me.
Absolutely.
And the reality is that there were no referrals because no one was doing anything. They were terrified.
Absolutely scared.
And 2020, like this year was a very good year for me.
Correct.
I was very, very happy, and I think 2025 will be because people are going to come back. But I think that the condo market is going to take a couple more years.
And you and I are hopeful people. I mean,
We
I'm saying realistically, like I'm a hopeful person. I'm positive.
Listen,
and I really
if
think
COVID can't shut down our economy,
then nothing can.
Although no one knows what those UFOs are.
Yeah, in New Jersey.
We'll end with that. Let's hope that 2025 is not the year.
I'll see you in 2025.
Yes, thank you.
Take care.